Hello, hello.
I'm Savannah.
And I'm Elysia.
And this is Burden of Proof. Welcome back, everybody.
Welcome, everyone. We have some shout outs.
Yeah, we have some lovely new patrons. Thank you guys so much. Shout out to Austin and to Calico Kitty 03.
I love it.
I know.
I love when people pick different names.
Yeah, it's like...
I'm not a person that does that. I don't think about it till it's too late. And then they're like, well, nope, that's what you picked.
It makes me feel like you're in witness protection.
I love it.
Yeah.
So thank you for joining Patreon.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. How are you to this fine Saturday evening?
Yeah, this is weird.
I know.
We don't normally record in the evenings.
It's nightmare fuel for later.
Oh no, I'm not going to have time to get over it before I go to bed.
I think you'll be fine. I think this
right.
one will be okay.
Okay.
I don't know about your case that we're recording after this, but you're going to be fine.
Okay.
So this week we have a brilliantly dramatic case with experimental drugs, a Hollywood starlet, a violent crime, and a conviction.
Ooh, a Hollywood starlet.
I know, this isn't really my usual vibe, but I listened to, if you don't listen to Morning Cup of Murder, highly recommend.
I do.
I know.
I have.
I love Morning Cup of Murder. And she covered it on her podcast on the 10th, which is on the anniversary of the case. And I had to know more. So here we are on a little bit of a deeper dive.
Here we are.
This week, we are discussing Susan Cabot.
Okay.
Dun, dun, dun.
I have no idea who she is.
Well,
So
you're about to.
I don't think I know this case at all.
Probably not. But it reminds me a lot of the Society Murders case. So if you like this, if you finish this and you like it and you want similar content, check out case number 86 because this one kind of gives the same vibe.
Okay.
Okay. So Susan Cabot was born Harriet Pearl Shapiro on July 9th, 1927. This makes her a Cancer, if you're worrying about her zodiac sign. If you're concerned, she's a Cancer.
I'm concerned. Okay.
She was born and raised in Boston, and she had a bit of a rough childhood. Her father abandoned the family, and her mother would eventually be institutionalized, and her aunts and other extended family refused to take her in. So she became a ward of the state and was entered into the foster care system.
Okay. Where,
unfortunately, things did not go very well for her. This is truly an example of the worst of the system, and throughout her time in foster homes, Harriet suffered abuse and sexual abuse, which resulted in PTSD. Apparently, she lived in up to 14 foster homes during her time in the system.
So, not to backtrack, but you said she was born in the 1920s?
Yes, 1927.
Wow. I guess I wasn't aware that they did fostering back then. I just thought there was orphanages.
Just ye old orphanages.
Ye old orphanages.
With, oh my gosh, what's her name? Miss Hannigan.
Yeah.
When was Annie?
I think Annie took place like in the 30s or 40s. So, yeah, around the same time period as this probably.
Well, yeah.
Or part of it.
Miss Hannigan was a foster mom.
Yeah.
Now that I think about it.
But she had a big place with lots of...
It was like a group home.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. I guess when I think back to that time period, I just think of orphanages.
No, I agree. When you say it like that, I kind of think I thought the same thing.
Yeah, or like small orphanages, like group home kind of thing. But yeah, I didn't know. So that's the more you know.
The more you know.
Learn something new every day.
Yep. So when she was 17, she decided she could absolutely not live like this anymore. Even just one more year, she was done. And so she and a childhood friend named Martin, to get the southern out of my voice when I say that name, Martin, not Martin, decided to get married and to get her free of the foster care system. So they did, and it did work. She was able to move out with him as her husband, and the two of them would eventually divorce after 7 years of marriage. But I couldn't find if it was like a love match or if it was truly a transactional thing. So neither side has ever said anything negative that I could see about the other. No harm, no foul.
So at least they were friends.
Mm-hmm. And that's a common thing for Harriet.
Okay.
So she eventually finds her footing in Hollywood. Jazz hands. With aspirations as high as the stars, Harriet picks the stage name Susan Cabot and makes her film debut. She acted in several B-list films before realizing that she was unfortunately struck with a case of typecasting. These are not my words, okay? But she kept being cast as quote-unquote exotic characters.
I mean, I think that happened a lot back then.
It definitely did. So she kept being cast as indigenous characters in Western movies and things like that. She kind of got stuck because she was Jewish and she had some... I don't know. I was
going to say, what... Well, I mean, I guess we'll figure it out when we see what she looks like.
Yeah, she was Jewish.
Okay.
Yeah.
That
doesn't really help at all. I don't know.
No, I was going to say...
It's just a point later that she's Jewish is important.
They didn't exactly use actual indigenous people and whatnot in things. So that's why I was thinking, like, maybe if she was something about her, she looked closer. But
no,
when you
not
say
really.
Jewish, I don't really instantly think, oh, then she probably looked close to... No.
Yes, you're exactly right. She really didn't, in my opinion.
Okay.
But so she got, like, got kind of sick and tired of that. So in 1954, she left Hollywood for the New York stage, but by 1957, she was back. She began working with a B-list film director, Roger Corman, and starred in several of his low-budget films. Okay. Her most famous role was the Wasp Woman.
Ooh.
In this film, she plays a woman who, in an effort to look younger, undergoes experimental cosmetics derived from wasps, and then becomes a wasp monster. Femme Spider-Man, if you will, but evil.
Okay.
It's giving Ant-Man and the Wasp, but bad. And low budget.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Are you with me?
Yes. I have lots of visuals in my head that I'm sure are nothing like the actual movie.
You know what? I actually didn't look at any pictures. Like, I looked at pictures from the movie, but none of her as a wasp monster, which you would think is the first thing I would have Googled. But
yeah, like, what does that look like? Was it just that the wasp, something about the wasp was, like, put into the cosmetics, or did they actually sting her?
No, I think it was like they, like, put it in a serum or something.
Oh.
Yeah.
So check your ingredients on your cosmetics.
Actually, don't do that. You're going to be horrified.
Yeah.
You're going to be horrified at the amount of beetles in your cosmetics. It's gross.
That's not surprising.
Shout out to Lush. I know exactly what's in my skincare because I'm terrified of that.
Fair.
Sponsor me.
Sponsor me.
So in 1959, Susan began a relationship that would change her life and maybe inadvertently lead to her death.
Dun, dun, dun.
Now, because I don't want a strange government visit, please note that everything from here on out is alleged when I'm talking about the CIA. Okay? The CIA's involvement is alleged. Allegedly. A conspiracy. A rumor, if you will. However, a rumor that is... I'm nodding. Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Don't come for me. In 1959, the CIA was allegedly working with some very major Middle Eastern players who were supposed to come to the United States to work on diplomatic issues and to strengthen ties.
In 1979?
59.
Sorry. I have another CIA conspiracy in mind.
I agree. And these men requested that the CIA arrange female companionship for them whilst they were here. So the CIA were on a mission to find somebody who was not too important, but well known enough not to scorn the Middle Eastern diplomats, and would be beautiful enough to satisfy all requirements. And they approached Susan Cabot, who at the time was, like I said, a B-list Hollywood actress. I feel like that does fit the bill. And she was beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
So they were like, okay, this works.
Mm-hmm.
She was 100% informed about the CIA's expectations of her, which was to go to bed with the King of Jordan. That's right, King Hussein of Jordan.
Okay.
And she, of course, said no. Because No.
Because I'm an actress, not a...
She's like, don't pimp me out, basically.
Yeah. I'm an actress, not an escort.
Yes.
We'll use the classier term.
Escort. So the CIA were like, but we know she's perfect, so we need to come up with something a little more creative. And so they secretly, allegedly, arranged a dinner party at which, in LA, at which Susan bumped into the King of Jordan, King Hussein.
Okay.
And apparently, their first meeting went very well. She was quite taken with him. And she said he was one of the most charming men she ever met.
And then she told the CIA, I take it back.
Yeah.
I'll absolutely sleep.
Pretty much. And the CIA were like, okay, next time he visits, we'll put you up in a hotel under a different name. Which that's exactly what they did. They gave her an assumed name. And every time he would come, they would give her a little hotel.
Wow. Okay.
These two would go on to have an affair that lasted upwards of 7 years. But in 1964, they break up and Susan disappears from the Hollywood social and professional scene before returning in 1966 with, guess what? A 2-year-old son.
Uh-oh.
Yes. Now, her affair with the king was not a secret. Everybody knew about it. They were trying to keep it under wraps, but everybody knew about it. That's how she maintained such a social status as, like, their relationship went on. She was still doing B-list movies, but she was well known and successful because of the fact that people knew she was.
Yeah, I was kind of wondering in the beginning there how the CIA thought that an actress was a good fit. I know you said because of their standing.
Yeah, I think that they didn't want somebody who would have been too notable because the king was married.
Well, yeah, I assumed.
So they didn't want anybody that would be too important, but somebody that also wouldn't be like, well, we found this person on the street, because they would have been like, well, that's so you think that little of me kind of thing.
Gotcha. So somebody that has some sort of status to suit him.
Yes.
Not them.
Right.
Got it. But yeah, but an actress, how are you going to keep that under wraps?
Right. They were hoping that because she wasn't super well known that it would have been.
Yeah, but something like that.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what unfolded.
Yes.
Something like that will make you more well known.
Yes.
Because,
she's the one who.
Whisper, whisper, whisper.
Yes. Pretty much what happened. So again, he was married. And also, they broke up, A, because Susan got pregnant. And B, because it was becoming a problem with the king that she was Jewish.
I kind of wondered about that, but I didn't want to ask.
Yes. So I think as their relationship continued, he was like, can't really do this anymore because you're Jewish. And then she got pregnant. He was like, now I really can't do this anymore. So like I said, they tried to keep their relationship kind of on the DL anyway, but she definitely didn't want to reemerge on the social scene as somebody who was single and had a child out of wedlock.
Right.
And the child appeared to be the son of a wealthy king who was married. That was just not the move. So she came up with a story that she told that eventually devolved. She told everybody that while she was away from Hollywood, she married a British diplomat. But he was away on business because their marriage was rocky and they never saw him because they just weren't getting along. And then later, she told people that her son's father was a secret agent who went on a mission and never returned.
Okay.
Right. So people were like, we all know who his father really is.
Seems like it would be more plausible to be the man who you were always,
Yeah, especially considering that Susan and Hussein were really good friends. Even after their breakup and through the rest of their lives, they would continue to talk several times a year. And he would send her money monthly, like $1,500 monthly as like financial support.
Well, that's nice of him.
Yeah, so they got along swimmingly, even post not banging anymore. So succinct and well said and well spoken, huh?
I mean, what do you call it? It's an affair.
That's what they were doing. But there was somebody else who thought that that Timothy, her son, might be his child. The plot thickens. Apparently, Susan had a 3-week fling with another B-list actor, Christopher Jones, and he was determined that Timothy was his child. He said, "He looks like me, and the timeline is right." And he told everyone that would listen. And she didn't really acknowledge it ever, because, I mean, we don't know for sure, but, you know. We know that the king of Hussein was his father. King of Jordan, whose name was Hussein.
I mean, does the kid actually look like this other guy, or?
I mean, a little bit. But he could, like, he's pretty ambiguous looking. He could look like either of them.
Oh. That's why you need to sleep with very different looking people.
If you're going to sleep with many people, they all need to look different.
They all need to look very different.
Yeah.
So that way.
That's so funny.
And then if the kid comes out looking like you, well, I don't know what to tell you.
You tried. You did your best. Oh my goodness. So let's talk a little bit more about this mysterious love child, shall we?
Okay.
Timothy was a medically complicated child. The birth was difficult, and he was born prematurely, which resulted in some brain damage and lifelong seizures attributed to acute hypoglycemia.
Okay.
She would later tell a reporter, "Both the baby and I barely made it. The poor little fellow spent his first 4 months in an oxygen tent." And her son was born with dwarfism. When Timothy was young, Susan was told about an experimental treatment for dwarfism that would take growth hormones from the pituitary gland of a cadaver and inject it into the pituitary gland of her son, and it would help him grow and not be a dwarf or a little person. We say little people now, but all the reporting said dwarfs. Okay? You're struggling to wrap your head around that, I see. So a cadaver is a dead person.
No.
I know, I'm kidding.
It's one of those things where but like when you hear detailed stories like that, like the extent that people back then would go to like not have a quote abnormal child. But then you hear the detail, like seriously, just accept your kid for who he is.
Yeah, and I don't think she did it as like I think she just thought it was what was best for him, but it was not. And the other thing is, all the parents that were involved in this trial were very well informed of what could the side effects possibly be.
Well, I don't even know what they are yet. What little medical background I have, it's not good.
It's not good. And unfortunately, it did work. He was only projected to be 4 foot tall, and he ended up being like 5'6". So it did work. But at what cost?
Right.
Because he also developed something called, okay, bear with me, Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease, or Jacob disease. I don't know. I've heard people say it both ways, and I'm assuming it's Jacob, which is more commonly known as mad cow disease.
Oh my God. What?
Yeah. So fun fact for you. Let me dispel some rumors. They're different things, mad cow disease, and we call it CJD for short.
Okay.
CJD is the human version of mad cow disease.
Okay.
Humans cannot have the same version as the cows.
Right.
Or bovine.
Right.
Basically, yes, you can get a variant of CJD from eating beef from infected cattle, but you're more likely to get a different variant like this one from contaminated medical procedures. So quite literally, they got a bad batch of dead people.
I want to take my skin off.
Oh, no.
That's good. Okay.
So CJD leads to essentially Alzheimer's disease. It is a long process, but eventually it's neurodegenerative.
Right.
Yeah. And it leads to essentially Alzheimer's disease. Early onset. And there's no cure, so it's literally just a waited out diagnosis.
Yeah.
So poor Timothy.
But hey, he's 5'6".
But he's 5'6".
As I roll my eyes.
And he already had like mental defects because of trauma he had when he was born. So this poor kid.
So why not make it worse?
Quite literally. So
what?
Anyway, At this point, Susan met her second husband, Michael Roman, who was significantly younger than Susan by 15 years.
Okay, well, we all know I won't go on my tirade. If you've listened for a while, if you're new here, go back and listen to some old episodes to hear how I feel about big age gaps.
She loves them, can't you tell?
I wish you could see my face.
Yeah, it was a good face.
I mean, okay. 15 years, that's not as bad as some of the ones that we've talked about.
Mm-hmm.
And depending on how old she was and how old he was, you know, okay.
Yeah.
I'm trying to be more open-minded about it these days.
Okay.
I'm trying.
The two met in an acting workshop and fell into a very quick whirlwind romance where they were engaged after like the third day of knowing each other and got married very quickly.
Nope.
And Michael quickly adopted Timothy as his own son.
Nope.
She's taking her headphones off. She's leaving the room.
I'm done. Oh!
What, the mad cow disease wasn't enough for you?
Susan.
And I'm sure you can imagine it was a rocky marriage because after so many years as a single mother, she was very distrusting and would not allow Michael to be too involved in the parenting of Timothy, which is not what either Timothy or Michael wanted. They both wanted to see each other more. She was very hesitant to leave Timothy alone with Michael. I think that's some of it's due to her own trauma. And she knows, she's like, I have to protect my son. And it was just kind of a weird situation.
Okay.
But her screaming fights with Michael would eventually come out to be a symptom of her deteriorating mental state.
Okay.
The two spent several years in therapy before they divorced in 1981. Susan then quit all of her acting contracts and retreated into the home that she shared with Timothy in Encino, California, because her mental health was spiraling. She saw a therapist regularly who said that her PTSD and trauma had led to sessions that were, quote, very emotionally draining, quote. And Susan began to struggle to care for herself and her home, which was quickly falling into disrepair.
And she's 50-something at this point? Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
We pick up on December 10th, 1986, with 22-year-old Timothy calling 911. He stated that he had been attacked by a home intruder who had knocked him out, took $70,000 before running off, and he was unsure of the status of his mother.
Okay. I'm not sure what to make of that.
You're not really supposed to.
Okay.
It's unsure. It is weird. And the police were worried when they pulled up to the home because it was, we'll just say, slightly more decrepit than the others in the area. Now, it's like a wealthy neighborhood. Imagine a neighborhood with an HOA in Encino, California, where the rich people live. And then you have the haunted house on the top of the hill.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was up on a hill. It was like prime real estate.
Nice.
And they just were like, I don't want to go in there. I'm scared of it. I don't want to trick or treat there. It's the haunted house.
It just made me think of this clip of the show Cops that Matt just sent to me.
Yeah.
Where this big black guy looks tough as nails is dealing with like a domestic dispute. But then the guy in the dispute got locked out of his house and he's like, I need you to help me get back in. So he helps him get back in. And the officer's like, are those snakes? Do you have snakes in here? And he's like, oh, I won't let anything happen to you. And like, he shows him all these snakes. He's got like snakes on snakes on snakes.
Snakes on snakes on snakes.
He goes, wait, come this way. And he goes into this room and he's trying to open a closet. The cop goes, man, I don't like snakes. Are there snakes in there? And he goes, well, I hope there is. And it's two huge boas.
Oh my gosh. No.
And the cop's like, nope.
I'm out.
I don't do snakes.
No, I think that's fair. I think that's beyond the Call of Duty.
Yeah, you already settled the dispute.
Yeah.
You can go.
Yeah, you let the guy back into his house. No snakes for you. That's kind of how they were feeling. They were like, we don't want to do this. And it got worse because when they attempted to go into the home, they were like, dude, you got 3 really big, loud dogs in there. We're not going in there. And so for 6 hours, they're like tiptoeing around these dogs because Timothy has 3 huge Akitas.
Oh.
Who were very loyal and they sounded really scary.
They they can be really sweet dogs. But yeah, if they don't know you and they're barking at you, they can be scary.
So Timothy gave them the rundown, said that he woke up at 9:30 that night. He must have gone to bed early. I don't know. And he heard someone attacking his mother. So he had gone into the kitchen to go see what's up. And he describes that there was a tall Hispanic man with long hair who attacked him and knocked him out. And he said that he was dressed as, drumroll please, a ninja warrior.
A ninja warrior.
A ninja warrior. A tall, long-haired Hispanic ninja warrior. So, like I said, the police tried to look through the home, but again, it took almost 6 hours to get the dogs like in a room and situated. And they got them in a room and then they tiptoed around the room, but they couldn't go into that room. So they didn't do a full sweep of the house because of where the dogs were. But eventually they did make their way into the home where they found a ransacked house. This house, all of like furniture was tipped over, but it was hard to tell because the house was disgusting.
Yeah.
There were trash bags and laundry and old food and just, it was not a good situation. And so when they entered Susan's room, they were shocked to find blood spatter everywhere. Susan laid on her bed in a purple nightgown with a cloth over her head. The walls had a huge arc of blood spatter, and the cloth on her head was covering some major bludgeoning wounds. She was pretty unrecognizable. But as Roman continued to tell his story to the police, they noticed major inconsistencies throughout his version of events.
Wait, you said Roman.
His last name is Roman.
Oh, yeah, because he was adopted.
He was, yeah. Okay. Sorry. Timothy.
No, I just wanted to make sure that, because I thought we were still talking about Timothy.
We are.
When you said Roman, I forgot about the adoption. Okay.
My apologies.
No, carry on. You're good.
They found lots of inconsistencies. In addition, while his mom was beaten to death very violently, he got away with some superficial wounds, like some scratches and some bruises and stuff. And they were like, that's not really matching, especially when he said he was knocked out, but there didn't seem to be enough of a blow to his head to do that. He didn't have like a big old egg on his head.
Yeah.
So the paramedic at the crime scene, his name was John Biner. He was like, it's not really adding up, but who am I? Who am I?
Yeah.
In addition, they continued to look through the house and they found that Timothy was a bit of a martial arts buff. His inspiration was Bruce Lee, and they had pictures of him all over his room. And they found a weight set that was missing a weight. And it was very clear to anyone that once they got to know the Akitas a little bit more, that there was no way that these dogs ever would have let an intruder near Timothy.
Yeah.
They were very loyal. So they decided, okay, if it looks like a duck, and it walks like a duck, and it talks like a duck, it's you. And so they continued to question him for a grueling 3-hour interrogation.
Mm-hmm.
And then he confessed.
Yeah, I was going to say, the whole covering of the face. We've talked about it before. When people cover their parents after they kill them.
Yeah. Timothy, well, no, it was I'm sorry, I should have clarified. The medical examiner thought that the sheet had put on over before she was bludgeoned to death.
Oh.
So I thought that was interesting. That's the only thing that really...
couldn't look at her.
That's the only thing that makes me a little bit weird in the end of this episode. You'll see what I'm talking about when we get to the conclusion of the trial. You'll see why I'm like, everything makes sense except for that.
Okay.
So Timothy explained that his mom's mental state had gone from bad to worse, and she had been in hysterics and that she didn't even recognize him. He told them that she grabbed a weight and a scalpel and rushed him, attacking her own son. She was out of her mind, and he fought back in self-defense, which resulted in her death. He said he told the intruder story because he never thought anyone would believe his self-defense story. And when they took him back to the house, he, without prompting, brought them directly to the murder weapons, which was the missing weight from his bedroom set and the scalpel. Now, the defense team, really went for gold and honestly thought they did a really good job in the trial. So we're going to move into that unless you have any other questions.
I'm assuming, yeah, like you said, we'll see at the end, but how do you claim self-defense if it was determined that the sheet was on her?
Yeah, that's the only thing that's a little weird to me.
Yeah.
But we'll talk about the defense's explanation for that.
Okay.
It's the only thing I can really give you. Because I honestly, the defense, I'm convinced. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, there's, you'll see. Some of it's a little bit out there, but you'll see.
Okay.
Basically, they told a story that his increasingly unstable mother came at him, and they then proceeded to inform the court of all of the other evidence they had of her declining mental state. They had his tutor testify that she would regularly scream at Timothy for random things, and had his doctor testify that she was possessive and obsessive over Timothy and that she had an unhealthy attachment. This doctor also included in their report earlier in his life that her behavior was directly impacting Timothy's maturity level and ability to thrive.
I mean, makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Her therapist testified to her decline and how draining the sessions were. They even said they couldn't imagine what it would have been like to live with Susan because they were only 40 to 50-minute sessions and they were exhausted when they were done.
Yeah.
The defense team showed pictures of the state of their house in the courtroom and the pièce de résistance. They claimed that Susan had been taking Timothy's medicine in an effort to slow the aging process. That's right, she was injecting herself with his medicine. The medicine that the court had already established made Timothy unstable, so unstable that he overreacted when she did rush him, and that's what resulted in her death. She truly thought that this would reverse the aging process. It was the Wasp Woman movie come to life.
Oh, what kind of medication was it?
So they had him on some medication to like slow down the process of the Alzheimer's or the CGD.
Oh, got you.
Or
okay.
CJD.
Yeah.
But I think in her state of mind,
she took it as it slows down aging.
Yes. Or she thought that maybe it was the medicine that they gave him when he was a kid that helped him like grow and kept his skin really clear, like that ended up giving him CJD. But she may not have known that that's not that's not what she was taking, or B, like put two and two together that like she was completely out of it at this point in her life.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. And her psychiatrist testified on the stand like, yeah, she was not well.
Yeah.
And that was their explanation for the sheet and like how he would have killed her. If you missed that, like they're saying that the medicine he was on plus his lowered mental state and lowered IQ, he completely overreacted because in his story, which I'll tell when he testifies, I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
This case is just, there's so drama, so much.
So much drama.
I have so much to say. I'm obsessed with this guy on TikTok who's Dutch, and he does like Dutch people versus American people, or like a Dutch person when you're excited and you're like, oh my gosh, I got a new job. And he's like, yeah, and congratulations. Or you start, what?
Maybe that's the place for me.
Yeah. Anyway, I keep slipping into a Dutch accent because of him. It's funny. So the initial trial, which was a jury trial, resulted in a mistrial or a retrial. Trial. Because one of the counselors developed a stress-related heart issue. And they were like, I can't do this no more. And they were like, no, please don't kill yourself. Please stop. We'll just do it again. It's okay.
Oh my gosh.
So then in the second trial, it was turned into a bench trial. So no jury. The decision completely lied in the hands of Judge Darlene Schwemp.
With an M?
Yep.
Okay.
And a P.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And poor Darlene, because this was not an easy trial to sit through. The prosecution decided late in the game that they were going to change their charges from first-degree murder to voluntary manslaughter, because they knew they couldn't prove premeditation.
Right.
And Timothy finally took the stand on October 6, 1989. There, he quickly broke into tears and recalled that his mother, moments before her death, had started screaming at him and seemed to have no idea who he was. He tried to call 911, because he was like, she's worse. She's worse than she was yesterday. She's worse than she was a month ago. Mm-hmm. I can't handle this anymore. It's beyond me. Let me call 911. She did not like that. So that's when she grabbed the barbell and attacked him. He got the barbell away from her, but then she came at him again, this time with a scalpel. And in self-defense, he backed her into her bedroom and beat her to death. On October 10th, he was found guilty of involuntary manslaughter, a sentence that carried a sentence of 6 years in jail. He had already spent 2.5 years in jail while awaiting trial, and he was given 3 years probation. And the judge concluded and said that you're free to go. You're on probation for 3 years, but you've served enough time and you have good behavior. So he left with his grandmother that day.
Wow.
And she said, quote, there was no doubt in her mind that he, quote, loved his mother very much. His grandmother, who was his stepdad's mom.
Okay. Yeah, I was like, wait, where are the grandparents coming in? Because you've got an orphan for a mother.
Yeah.
And a king.
Yeah.
Across seas.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, her mom was, I believe her mom was still alive because her mom was institutionalized, so she didn't die.
Okay.
So she could have had a grandmother, but I'm pretty sure this was Michael's mom.
Yeah, that makes most sense, though. Yeah.
She stood diligently by Timothy through the whole trial, and she did take, not custody because he was an adult, but over his care. Yeah, because he did need care. She says, oh, what we have gone through. Timothy and I are just drained. It's time to start a whole new life. We are taking him away from this area, from this town. And his family stuck to their word. They tried their best to move on from this ordeal, even when it became famous. And Timothy passed away in 2003 at 39 years old.
Oh.
And that is the story of Susan Cabot. That's it.
What a life.
I know.
Wow.
What a rise. A short rise to B-list.
Yeah.
And what a fall.
But somehow a bigger fall.
Yeah.
Much bigger. Wow.
And a weird king for a baby daddy.
And a king for baby daddy.
Who sent her money. I mean, she was living the dream. Yeah. I was fascinated by this story.
Yeah.
A ninja warrior.
Yeah, that part got me.
Yeah.
I didn't want to make too many jokes because...
Not actually a ninja warrior, but I kind of wish there was a ninja warrior. But I do believe that he did it in self-defense. Her neighbors would later testify and say they had a very codependent relationship. They never did anything without the other.
Well, yeah, it sounded like that from the beginning.
Yeah. So
weird. People are weird.
People are weird.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I had never heard that. That is fascinating.
Yeah, I'm glad you rode that roller coaster with me.
I wonder whatever happened to the king.
Oh, I don't know. Probably fine. But yeah, thanks for listening. And next week, Elysia will be bringing our very awesome Christmas episode, which is also our Patreon pick for December.
Mm-hmm.
Woohoo!
Yep. So, thanks for listening, everybody.
Yeah, we will talk to you next time.
Till next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening, guys. Find us on Instagram and TikTok at Burden of Proof Pod and email us at burdenofproofpod@gmail.com.